Happy New Year and welcome back to AskFans TV. Today we're here with the one and only legendary Newcastle and Man City, Mr. Steve Howey. How's it going, bro?
Very well, how are you?
Oh man, so good, so good, so good.
Good.
Beautiful New Year, football's back on, do you know what I mean? FA Cup weekend just ended and Premier League's about to get back underway.
Well, it is, but we look forward to that. I think, obviously, you know, with the FA Cup, I love the FA Cup. You know, a lot of people have always sort of said it's kind of losing its way a little bit, but you look at some of the results from the lower teams that they're getting, and look at the draws that they're getting. I think it's fabulous for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, just touching briefly on the FA Cup. What was your thoughts on Arsenal this past couple of days?
Well, let's just say I don't think Arsene Wenger is a fan of referees and penalties and stuff like that. But having said that, I think, you know, whilst maybe it's one or two decisions you think that maybe it's a touch unlucky, I don't think you can excuse some of the defending. And I think especially the one for there's a set play and actually the line is in front of the wall. Now, if I had a schoolboy team and they did that, I'd be disappointed. But when you've got a World Cup winner in Mertesacker and stuff like that, shocking. Yeah, it's not great.
Absolutely shocking. Well, we'll kickstart with where a lot of people want us to kickstart, which is talking about some of your previous clubs, Newcastle, to start with. What's your thoughts on them this season? You think they're going to stay up?
I hope so. I think, you know, they're very lucky because the fact that they've got a fabulous manager. You know, he is sort of one of the top managers around.
Absolutely.
If you look at his pedigree, you look at where he's been, the teams that he's managed. I think he's getting frustrated now. I think he finds it frustrating because when he comes up against your Mourinho's, he comes up against Pep Guardiola's or Wenger's or anybody, he'd want to go against them on a like kind of an even plane. With my team's just as good as your team, but can I tactically outdo you?
Absolutely.
And I think he gets frustrated because the fact that they're just not the same. I mean, look, is there anybody that's on the same plane, on the same level as Manchester City? You've got to say no. But I think he gets frustrated with the fact that if you look at the amount of money he's had to spend, or certainly the window when it closed at the beginning of the season, no business was done. Obviously, the news back up home at the moment is it's not great at the moment. There's the takeover talk and stuff like that. Is that going to go ahead? If it doesn't, does he still get cash? They need an influx of finance to help them. I think they've got a decent team, but I think if they don't strengthen, they could find themselves back down there.
Without a shadow of a doubt there. What's your thoughts on that? As you touched on, obviously, the new ownership and so on and so forth. You know, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think the sooner Mike actually leaves, the better, or do you think? Because I think sometimes you look at it from a position and you think Mike actually's a bit in a sticky position because he's going to have to spend money. Because if I was looking to buy, I'm not going to buy right now because if I wait and you go down, I can buy it for cheaper, or I'll just wait for you to finish financing it and then I'll buy. So what's your thoughts? Do you think the sooner?
I mean, look, there's no doubt about it. The man's made a lot of money from the club.
Yes.
I think he bought it for 130 million. And I think whilst he has put 100 million of his own money in, don't forget the sponsorship money.
Absolutely.
That obviously, he's got Sports Direct plastered all over the thing. You know, you've got the Premier League TV and you know, the BBC, everything, you know, it goes worldwide.
Yeah.
So that gets branded worldwide. You look at the players that they've sold, you know, for the vast amount of monies that they've received, for players that they haven't spent a great deal on. And then he's still wanting 300 million for the club, which is a lot. And, you know, I think, you know, Amanda Staveley, she has got decent backers. Obviously, she helped Sheikh Mansour with a broker the deal for Manchester City. Fans are desperate for him to go. I mean, I always sort of say, and I know I get pulled up by Newcastle fans, but I just think better the devil you know at times.
Yeah. Because
we've seen it in the past. There's somebody come in and he's saying this and he's saying that, and it ends up being a train crash. So I think it's you hope that something will get sorted out, and if it does, do you hope that Newcastle can then just compete? Because I know Mike Ashley had mentioned something when he did his interview, and he sort of said you can't compete with the Manchester Cities, and yeah, fair enough, because he sort of said they're a country. Fair enough. But we're not asking them to compete with Manchester City. We're asking them to compete with other clubs that's in the Premier League. If you look at Watford, Southamptons and people like
Burnley.
that, you know, all them. I mean, look at Burnley. Burnley haven't spent a lot of money, but they've done unbelievable. And again, with fabulous manager in Sean Dyche. But you're just asking the owner to give the manager some help and sort of giving him some money that he can compete with the other teams.
Without a shadow of a doubt. So, obviously, money comes in. Let's say money comes in. What do they need to do with it? What we thinking? Loan, Giroud from Arsenal? Because I think goals-wise, that's where I think Newcastle's lacking quite heavily.
Well, they are. I mean, I think at times defensively they're quite solid. You know, I mean, you've got Lascelles there, was the captain, who has surprised me, if I'm being brutally honest. But he comes across as a good leader. The goalkeepers, I think they're decent goalkeepers, and they've got a young lad as well, and Freddie Woodman, who's a good goalkeeper. But I think you might want somebody else. I think fans would possibly like somebody else in there. You know, a goalkeeper that's kind of been there, seen it, and done it. But even still, I think you still could go with another centre half, another midfield player. I think forward-wise, Daniel Sturridge has been mentioned.
Yep.
Torres has been mentioned. Obviously, the connection with Benitez. I'm not too sure if Giroud would like it up there. I think it's a bit too cool for him, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, I think the manager's just got to try and scout about. I mean, he's obviously got his people out and looking and seeing who's available, who's not happy, who's not playing enough football, who wants to play more football. Because surprisingly, you do get an awful lot of players that's sitting on the bench and picking up good money that are quite happy to do that. You know, they're not really sort of thinking, I'm going to get myself out there. I might have to take a drop in wage, but I want to play week in, week out. Some players, believe it or not, are quite happy just to sit on the bench and pick money up, which is astounding, really.
Okay, that's a bit of a mad one, to be honest with you. A lot of career professionals, sort of we'll probably call it. On the other side of it, do you know what I mean? I know we spoke briefly a bit prior to the interview, but on the other side of it, Sunderland. They're in a bit of a struggle at the moment. You're kind of juxtaposed between the two a little bit. So how's your thoughts on Sunderland's struggles?
Well, they're in dire straits again. They've got an owner that just doesn't seem to be interested in what's happening with the club. You know, sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. I was very surprised that Sunderland managed to attract Chris Coleman, because I think Chris is an excellent manager.
Yeah, that was a coup and a half.
Absolutely.
Absolute coup and a half.
Very, very good manager. He's got good lads behind him as well. Sometimes a new manager can come in with the same players and kind of turn it around, but there's definitely a rot in that club. It's difficult, but it needs completely guttering out and starting again. I mean, I know the manager's trying to put kids in there, and it's difficult because when you put too many kids in, and it's boys against men at times.
Yeah.
But hopefully over this January period, you might be able to get a few people in, because as they stand at the moment, the bottom of the Championship, when last year they're in the Premier League. So that turnaround is frightening, really.
Yeah, you don't want them doing a Portsmouth, that's for sure.
Well, you don't, and I mean, if you look at, I know, people will sort of say our fans are the best, whether it's the Merseyside ones, whether it's the London ones, but you've got Newcastle in the North East and Sunderland ones. We're very, very passionate about the teams. Every fan is, I suppose. But you do get an awful lot of people turning up to watch not great football week in, week out, and it's soul destroying, really.
Absolutely.
Because, for me personally, whilst I'm not a Middlesbrough fan, I would love Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough to be in the Premier League, because it would be great for the area. Yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt. Without an absolute shadow of a doubt. Do you think Newcastle and Sunderland are going to be able to stay in their relative?
I think Chris will do something, and I think he will turn it around. I mean, the difficult thing is, Bolton hadn't won for weeks and weeks and weeks. Sunderland win, and then Bolton win.
Yeah.
So it's just obviously that as it's turned around, Sunderland got out of the bottom three, now the bottom of the bottom three. So it is going to be a tough ask for them. But you just pray to God that Chris can do something about it. And as far as Newcastle's concerned, I think it's really, really important to do get some influx of cash, because fans do get fed up when you look at your Watfords, Leicesters, and all these teams that you wouldn't see it at a big six.
Yeah.
And they're spending lots of money, and Newcastle aren't.
It's true. Absolutely. Well, thanks for that. We're gonna now turn to Manchester City, one of your other former clubs. That's doing absolutely fantastic. He's got that smile on his face.
So I wish that was still there now. I know
that. They're doing absolutely fantastically well now. So Pep's men, there's no stopping them, is there?
No. I mean, I've seen Man City a few times this season, and you can't help but just be impressed. I mean, I think obviously the goalkeeper's made a massive difference. Otamendi's had a good season where he's kind of been hit and missing. So he's done well. Obviously, you've got Stones in there and Company again in and out. But I think defensively they look reasonably solid. Midfield-wise, they're unbelievable. I think for me, by far the best player so far this season has been Kevin De Bruyne. Frightening to watch. And you look at the attacking options as well. Not only would it take a huge, complete sort of blow up as far as Man City was concerned, you need the other teams to be winning every other game, and you just can't see that happening.
Yeah, because even Man City dropped a couple of points against Crystal Palace. The nearest chasers, Man United, dropped 6 points over the exact same period. So I think it's tough in that sense for everyone else. Are they going to be able to do the Invincibles? That's the question.
Do you know what? That's a tough ask because, as we'd seen, the evidence is there. As we'd seen, Crystal Palace, who's not exactly flying high in the league, struggling, but they come and should win the game. They get a penalty in the 94th minute, and then the lad misses it. So that's a tough ask. So when you look at, your Arsenal, what they did, that's certainly some achievement.
Absolutely. Well, obviously this week we had a bit of a Jose versus Conte. Do you know what I mean? Which I'm sure we're going to touch on a little bit. But Jose versus Pep. Is it Pep over Jose all day, every day for you?
In what respect, kind of? Having getting him in the boxing ring and having a scrap or what?
No, not in a scrap. I guess in terms of winning, in terms of being a manager, in all its.
I like Mourinho, but you've got to love Pep. I think for me, he comes across as an excellent manager. I think you can see sometimes that Mourinho. If things are going great, he's great. If things are not going so well, he kind of he's not brilliant. I think there's always excuses and stuff like that, and sometimes that's completely just to deflect from his players, which is a good thing because obviously the players like that. But just how Guardiola comes across, when he was at Barcelona, he was at Bayern, and obviously at City, comes across as a very, very good manager, and again some very good people around him. As a player, you'd want to play for managers like that, both of them.
Yeah,
to be quite honest.
Absolutely. Okay, that was a nice rounded answer there. Obviously, Man City right now they're currently favourites for the Champions League. Is that rightly so? Obviously, Pep said, "Is Messi still in Barcelona?" Yeah. All right, then Barcelona are the favourites. But on paper, Man City are currently the favourites. Is that rightly so? Would you say that's right?
I think on any given day they can beat anybody. But I think for a few of the teams that's still in there, I think that's the same for them as well. Real Madrid's and your Barcelona's. On the day, Barcelona's Barcelona. They're absolutely scary. They just blow teams completely out the water. But absolutely, without a doubt, I think Man City's got a fantastic chance. I mean, for the first couple of years when they were getting in there, they kind of struggled a bit, and then they kind of got a bit of a foothold in, and now they seem to be progressing quite well. I think players are getting used to that. Fans are getting used to that at home as well because they weren't used to that. They were used to watching me, which wasn't great. So, I think they've got a very good chance.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Centre Back himself, Mr. England, Mr. John Stones. What's your thoughts on him?
I like him a lot. I can remember a while ago. I think his debut was against Norwich, and I was down at Everton. And I can remember watching him, and I liked him straight away. And I can remember speaking to Roberto Martinez afterwards, and I said, "I like that young lad." And he went, "Oh, he's going to be a player." And obviously he was right. I thought, he's one of these. He's very confident on the ball. He likes to bring it out. He likes to play football. He's getting the odd goal as well.
Yeah.
It was disappointing that he picked up his injury. I think the only thing that I worry a little bit about John is sometimes that you can overplay or you can be overconfident. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're a defender, and I think you've got to make sure you clear your lines. But absolutely, I love the fact that he wants to play football. As I said, there's nothing better for me watching somebody, coming out and maybe going past the player. Not if you're the last man, because that's just suicide. But going through and getting a 1-2. Kevin Keegan used to always want me to do it. But ultimately, you've just got to make sure that you do your job first and foremost, and if you then can do that, then do it.
Future City and England captain, you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think he's a very, very good player. A lot of pressure was on him. It was a lot of money for him. He's only a young boy. And for 50 million, whatever it was, for him, it's just but he seems to have dealt with it very well. And again, I think that helps when you've got a manager like Guardiola. You know, you can go to him, and I would guarantee that he sat him down and filled him full of confidence and sort of said, look, if you work hard, if you do this, you know, you'll be absolutely fine. And so far, he's been proven right.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I rate him as well. He's absolutely top quality and such a nice guy as well. I've met him a few times. He's absolutely awesome guy. Well, we're going to talk about one highlight in your career. You scored a late equaliser in the Manchester United Man City derby, in the same one that Roy Keane went after Mr. Haaland. How was that?
It was funny because that game, actually, Man United could have relegated us. And so that goal was quite important for Manchester City, but nobody really cares about it because everybody talks about the other thing. But that was coming. I mean, the thing was, you know, we all knew it was coming because the daft thing was, all that when it came about was Alfie and Haaland and Roy Keane. When Keane obviously was at United and Alfie was at Leeds. My personal opinion, I could be wrong, but people, and I'm pretty sure if Roy Keane watches this, he'll call me worse than rotten and slag me off, which he normally does anyway. But I think Alfie and Haaland's just trying to shepherd the ball out, and Roy Keane actually kicks him and hurts it. Now, you see Alfie and Haaland's kind of reaction, he doesn't know Roy Keane's injured. I think if he knows he's injured, he doesn't say what he says. But obviously Keane hasn't forgotten that. And then when we were in the tunnel before that game, you know, he's saying some choice words and saying that he was going to get it. And ultimately, he got it, to be quite honest. I mean, as I said, it was so blatant, it was ridiculous. But yeah, it wasn't the best of tackles.
Everyone kind of, it was in the air. It was in the air. Everyone kind of knew. Listen, it's gonna happen at some stage.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew in the build-up, as I said, in the tunnel. I think something was slightly mentioned. I'm not going to go into too much detail what happens in tunnels. That's why I'm not a big fan of these like glass tunnels.
Okay.
Because if it ever kicked off, that's the main place where it kicks off. You know, and fans are going to get, you know, the fans are going to see a lot more. I mean, fans, I suppose, are paying for that. But all in my time, you know, yes, sometimes it happens out on the pitch, but a lot of time it happens in the tunnel. Yeah, out the way. But of course, as I said, stuff was mentioned, and we all knew it was coming. Man U lads knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. And in all fairness, if somebody's got the bee in the bonnet about wanting to do somebody, there's not a thing you're going to do to stop it.
Yeah, do you think in this day and age, like a ref could do, say, or
no?
Nah.
No, I mean, look, I suppose you could just sort of say, you know, anything can, you know, I'll be asking the manager to take you off, or I might send you off. But the player, if he's got a bee in his head and he wants to, and he's not bothered whether he gets sent off,
he's doing
well, then you've got absolutely no power.
True. Okay, so moving on from Man City, we're going to touch on England. Obviously, absolute England international. What's your thoughts on Gareth?
I like Gareth. I mean, obviously, I was with Gareth through the 94 to 96 and stuff like that. I think he's a lovely fella. I think he's a good man for the job. I think he's got that kind of laid back approach at times. I don't think really, as he said, you have to shout and scream and pin people up, which used to happen back in the day. You know, sometimes you can have harsh words, you know, softly spoken, but just make sure you get your point across. I think Gareth does that. I think he's got a very, very good set of players there. But we've said that how many times? You know, how many times have we gone into the tournament and we've got Gerrard, Scholes, Rooney, Lampard. You know, it's just ridiculous. And we end up doing nothing. So I think this one's going to be a tough one. Again, we qualify relatively easily. But I'm looking forward to it. I'd certainly, like everybody else, be stuck in front of the telly and hoping that we do well. But let's just see. You just never know. Every tournament, I go in and I'm full of hope. And every tournament I get devastated. But when the next tournament comes around,
the hope comes back.
It's there again.
How do you think we're going to fare in Russia? Like, just touching on it, what do you think would, let me put it this way, what would you say would be a good return for England?
I think quarterfinals. But for me personally, looking at our team, you know, I think we could easily go quarterfinals, semi-finals. It's just, I worry sometimes because when I've watched England play and how sometimes the set up, and certainly how other teams have set up against England, they're difficult to break down. So we need that sort of inventiveness, that cleverness in midfield, just to sort of have them passes, because there's no doubt you've got a striker that if you feel him,
he's going to score. He's going to score. Harry is something else.
Scary.
Absolutely, absolutely. Selection-wise, now, right now we're talking like on current form, right? What selection? You spoke about midfield. Who would you have in the midfield?
I think obviously you've got Dele Alli there, but does he float a little bit? Again, there's Dyer, there's Henderson. I'm just trying to think who else there is there. I mean, for me, they are good quality. It just depends on who the manager really feels as though can do the job. I mean, I don't know whether some managers will pick a team specifically for that game.
Yeah.
And some will just go, right, mainly for that game, because they'll be thinking, well, they might be doing this and they might be doing that. And some managers go,
this is the best team.
This is my team. This is what I'm going to concentrate on. I think, when you've got Sterling's had a great season.
Absolute fantastic season.
So, when you've got likes of him, I think he's a must. I mean, I think Dele Alli's a must.
What, Jesse Lingard?
Yeah, I think when you look at his form as well recently, for Man United, I think he would be one. Who do you have in that sitting role? Is it going to be, or is he going to have a sitting role? Do you put Dyer in there? Do you put Henderson in there? I mean, you've got Lallana as well, because he's sort of come back really with Liverpool. I'd play Lallana for me. I'd play Sterling. I'd play Dele Alli and probably Lingard. But it's then how does he set up his back four, or does he go with 3 and then 5? So it'll be interesting to see what Gareth does.
Absolutely. I guess the final thing to touch on in this kind of topical section is what's your thoughts on the, mentioned quite briefly, your thoughts on the whole Jose Mourinho, Mr. Conte debacle. Because some people, on some ends of the spectrum, some people are like, well, to be honest with you, some people are, in essence, in Mourinho's corner in the sense of, well, to be honest with you, he didn't mention anyone's names when he mentioned what he mentioned. And the other side, some people are like, well, we all know Mr. Mourinho's a bit, he's able to throw something out there and hope somebody catches it.
Look, I mean, let's not sort of delude ourselves. I think we all know when managers do this. I'm not just saying Jose Mourinho, but when managers do this, we all know who they're talking about. And you don't have to say names. We always go, he's got to be talking about him. Now, this one's interesting because it's starting to get a bit personal.
Yeah, it is.
And normally it's just sometimes like a little statement that gets mentioned, and what Conte sort of says about him being fake, and then he's a little man, which I found quite funny, I have to be honest. And then obviously what Mourinho said about the stuff which happened in the Juventus and all that kind of thing. But it's getting a little bit, for me, it's getting a bit too personal. I think whether the FA or Premier League or somebody has to step in at some point, because how far is this going to go? It's just kind of, ultimately, the grown men. Just behave yourselves, or otherwise get together and sort it out. But
what I don't understand is why did it automatically go to Conte? Because obviously there are a lot of animated managers in the league. If he wasn't talking about himself, right? If he wasn't just talking about himself, there are a lot of other animated managers in the league. There's Jurgen Klopp on the touchline. There's Pep Guardiola on the touchline. Why didn't it go to any of them? Or if it did, how come those guys were able to, bob and weave it as opposed to?
I think it was because, if you look at that, you'd seen Mourinho have a word with him at the end of the game. In his ear, when Conte, he sort of pulled him across and whispered in his ear.
Last season. Okay.
And I think it's kind of stemming from that. Just basically sort of saying show respect and all this kind of thing. Which, I can understand what Mourinho's saying as well, because he's kind of covering his own back. But let's be honest, the first time we've really seen of him was him sprinting down the line for Porto and Man United, sliding on his knees.
Yep,
and he's done it after that as well. So, and he's done it, I can remember when Chelsea got a victory, I think it was at Liverpool, and he's down there and he's slapping his hand across his chest and on the badge and all that kind of thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you're going to do it, accept it when the other manager does it when their team does well. You cannot spit your dummy out. You can't have it both ways.
But I think for me, the thing is, within the interview, Mourinho's admitting that he did it. So it's not even as if he's saying, I didn't do it. I've never done anything like that.
Well, he can't not, can he?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like he's already condemned himself when he's then making the clown comment, in essence. So it's like, what else is there left to say?
Well, having said that, right, if when Mourinho was doing it in the past, which I think he's still
do it. Yeah,
he's
still
got
in
it
him.
in him.
It's coming.
It's still in the system. When he was doing it then, more so, without a doubt, and if he had another manager piping up and saying, calm down, and giving it like the big one, he'd be telling him, the big, like the sort of the big manager, the big name or whatever, he'd be sort of saying, oh, I'm just going to do you. I'm manager of this football team. If I want to celebrate, I'll celebrate. So, you know, it works both ways.
All right. Finally, he loves it though, doesn't he? Like Jose. This everything that's going on right now. He
loves turmoil. He loves turmoil. He just loves. I think he loves aggravation.
He's the only person who properly got under Sir Alex's skin as well during his first tenure at Chelsea, that managed to properly give Sir Alex what Sir Alex used to give to others as well. So interesting, but we'll see how it pans out.
Well, we will. I mean, see how things go. But for this one with Conte, I mean, as a neutral, I suppose, and as a fan, you want to see it escalate even more, because that would be funny. But on the other side, I think for the sake of the game, just let it go.
Just let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Mourinho ain't doing that.
No, he's not.
Steve, thank you very, very
Pleasure.
much. That was awesome.